Am I in Brooklyn? Oh, don't sound like it. Peace and blessings, everybody. All right. You know, anywhere you go in the world, you got to say it's Brooklyn in the house, but now we're in the house of Brooklyn, right? Okay. Well, Dwan, it's here. We want to start off tonight uh, giving thanks for this day. And I want to greet everyone that came out to Nicholas, Brooklyn, for tonight's special, very intimate conversation about a very, very critically important topic for all of us, right? Especially as we look ahead to the changes that are happening around us and the changes that we need to make within us to deal with the changes that are happening around us, right? And I also want to give thanks and greetings to our audience on StreamYard. And let's shout them out. We have 295 people so far in our StreamYard room. And we are also live on Facebook in 3 locations. We're live on YouTube and we are on Instagram. So peace and blessings to the Nicholas BK family. We're streaming live on Nicholas BK. And of course, first of all, my name is Tehuti Khamau. I serve as one of the priests in the Asaraset Society, Kamitic tradition, and one of the students of the master teacher, Ra'u Nefer, who is here with us all the way from Brooklyn. Let's give him a hand for coming out, being with us again tonight. Part of a 51-year relentless, consistent effort to uplift our people and all people in the world. So first and foremost, we give thanks to God. We give thanks to the Supreme Being known by many names, by all names. We give thanks to that great supreme consciousness that has created the world and allowed us to be present and allowed us to be here today. And we give thanks to our ancestors who have enabled us to continue to persist in this world. Can I get an ashe for that? I'd also like to start off by saying that we're in a place that's very dear to me. I lived in Brooklyn for many years, but we're also in Nicholas BK, and Nicholas is a part of my family. In fact, my cousin, Randolph Nicholas, was the founder of this operation, and they celebrated 51 years, I believe. 50. Yes. So something powerful was happening around 1973, 1974, because the Asaraset started in 1973 and Nicholas started in 1974. And here we are in one of the hubs of culture and spirituality, right? And information and upliftment and healing and natural living in Brooklyn. And we're here at the same time with one of the leaders, in fact, the premier leader in terms of African Kamitic spirituality. And I'll qualify that to say that we're talking about the solstice today. And for those of you who are new to the solstice, like you just got hip to the solstice maybe this year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or maybe 25 years ago, you got hip to the solstice. We were introduced to the solstice in 1974. Yes, it's not new. The Brooklyns feel kind of, wait a minute now. We used to live in Brooklyn. Was Brooklyn like this? Oh, it's cold. 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 All right. All right. South Jersey's in the house too. All right. Yes, but the solstice is very old, you know, and we have the oldest record of the observance of this special time of year that our master teacher is going to instruct us about. We know that's going back more than 6,000 years ago, right? So we're here with a pioneer and leader. In fact, I'm honored to be one of his students and followers. He also introduced a vegan lifestyle back at that time. So we like to say we were vegan before vegan was hip, before there was, commercials about I'm into plants and all this kind, changing the name if it's plant-based, is this, that, we was vegan way back when it was, you had to be real serious to be vegan because you couldn't go to the supermarket. You could definitely not go to the corner store. We called it Poppy Store in Philadelphia. I don't know what is here. You wasn't getting nothing vegan. You had to go to special co-ops and places like that. So, this is a special union of two very old parts of the same kind of movement. I think there was some consciousness that woke up in our people and took us into this direction. But some of us have been pioneering on that road for decades, So I want to welcome you and welcome everybody that's online with us tonight. The winter solstice is a very important time, and we wanted to make sure that we got together early enough, because one of the other things that has developed in these many years of observing the winter solstice is the refinement in the instruction and the understanding and its application to who we are today, because we are very different today than our ancestors were thousands of years ago. We're in a very different environment, right? We're dealing with a very different genetic load as far as what our people have been through. We're dealing with a very different load as far as our psychological, conditionings that we have been through. And we're dealing with very different circumstances in terms of what we're being exposed to environmentally, right? From the electromagnetic wave spectrums and the influences and the access to media, hypnotism, and all the kinds of things. It's one thing to study ancient practices, but to put those ancient practices into practice and be able to, as Shekhar Rao Nefer Amen has, observe the results and tweak the product and adapt it and make the application possible in a completely different environment is something that we have to learn how to appreciate, right? How to understand. Like right now, we're raising a new generation of beings. If you think about even what the anatomical structure of our children now might be looking like 20 years from now, because when we grew up, we never had a reason to look down. Today, you have children from the time they're 2 years old trying to spend most of their life looking down at a screen. I remember we were taught Zazen breathing. I can't remember how many decades ago that was. But we were shown the connection between your rate of breathing, how many breaths per minute you were taking, and your state of consciousness, right? And we were given this mystical key back then of like the beast brain, 18666, and this whole thing, and we was like, wow, this is deep. And we started experimenting with that. I remember coming home from one of the classes on the subway and looking at people breathing, and it's like my eyes had been open. I was like, wow, I'm counting people's breath because I was checking my breath. And I was like, man, this person's deep 25 breaths a minute. What's going on with that? You know what I mean? So imagine now, people whose whole orientation. I'm working with some Tuina masters and one of my dear friends who was into Tuina and traditional Chinese medicine just transitioned. And he had predicted years ago, just from looking at his patients, you heard of technique? Serious. If you don't watch, if you're not aware of your posture and everything, you're doing this all day long. And the weight of your head, there's a whole thing about how the more your head tilts forward, the heavier the bearing load. So imagine a child anatomically, right? You're walking around doing this all, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. So I'm saying all of that to say we're different now, right? We've got different things to deal with. So it's not enough just to go I mean, it's hard enough to go back and understand the ancient wisdom, but then to be able to take the ancient wisdom and apply it scientifically to the conditions and the people of today takes a master. Takes a master. So that's what we're in store for here. But I started out that to say I want to give thanks to my cousin Randolph Nicholas for his work, and to his children who have continued, Black enterprise in multiple locations in Harlem and here in Brooklyn, and for them hosting us and being a center to help to spread consciousness to our people. So we had to come here to Nicholas today to share the wisdom of the winter solstice. And we foresee this enterprise continuing to grow and to blossom. And we have some things that we're going to be doing. In fact, there's a course that is available right now on our new platform that we built out, which is called Kamitic Legacy, right? That if and when you decide to take a course with us, part of the proceeds from that is going to assist Nicholas, whether you're here or not, right? So we're building ways to support each other, to build our businesses together, even beyond just the physical exchange that, we encourage you to keep doing and supporting a business like this. Is that right for you? Is that good? All right. So without further ado, it's my honor to introduce to you Ra'un Nefer Amen. Ra'un Nefer Amen, as I said, has been soldiering in the field of spirituality and started a African-centered spiritual organization in 1973 because it wasn't enough just to talk about it. We had to be about it. We had to live it together. We had to, experiment with it and make it work. And he's been steadily teaching and guiding and nurturing that for 51 years. In addition to that, he's written over 40 books on spirituality, on natural holistic healing and so on, and other topics, relationships. He's also composed, performed, and published over 100 musical compositions that are the product of him sacrificing his personal musical career, right, as a virtuoso, master pianist and composer, and channeling that genius into how to manipulate the energies of our spirit, our soul, right, to stimulate our faculties through music that is for meditation. So some of you who are new with us, I want to welcome you. Some of you just found out about our courses and have been working with some of the mantras. Some of you were here for 1 year, and last year you learned about how to use certain mantras to work with, the Ajna chakra, the Guru chakra, the Swadhisthana chakra. There's many, 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 many more mantras and words of power, healing words that are part of the repertoire of what he has introduced. So that is foundational, but there's much, much, much more for us to learn and for us to apply. So at this time, I'd like everybody, could I ask you please to respectfully stand? We say Anecha Rak, which is an ancient word of peace and power, to empower Ra'un Nefer Amen, Shekma Shekma of Solstice Society, Anecha Rak, to you. And a rousing hand applause would be good too. Let's give it up. Thank you for coming out, Shekma Shekma.
There you go. Hotep. Good evening. Thank you for coming out. I know it's very cold today, but it made no difference, right? Made no difference. Appreciate you very much. We are right now in the middle of what is known as the winter solstice, where certain astronomical phenomena stand still, meaning they are no longer moving in a particular direction. They're holding in place to move back in the opposite direction And we experience this, every day since the winter, since the fall began. The days are getting shorter and shorter. The daylight is getting shorter. The sun is rising later and setting earlier. So there's a lot of darkness. And then as of, Wednesday, December 25th, that is reversed until we get to summer where, the daylight period is much longer. The darkness period is much shorter. So this standing still of the movement of the earth and the sun, this standing still will be reversed on December 25th. The word to stand still is what solstice means. Solstitia in the Latin language means the sun is still. Solstitia. So, yeah. So we find that around the world in antiquity, there were all kinds of celebrations in different cultures, Saturnalia. Some people get very carnal and drunk and so forth, do all kind of, funny things. Other people, of course, celebrated, virtues and things of that nature. And it has come down the historical pipe, into what is now Christmas and New Year celebration, and even Halloween. Was part of this coming celebration, because Halloween, was a celebration of the ancestors, which became later on in Western culture, Hagelbins and all of this. Certain people don't have an understanding and respect for tradition, spiritual customs, and so on. So, what is the importance of this solstice thing here? We find that it is a time of renewal. You see that? Everything, is subject to time. Everything happens on a allotted time. There's a book called by Dewey, right? And it is called, Cycles by Dewey. You should try to get that book, right? Because it's a very short publication, because it gives the time for many, many commodities. In other words, the people making a lot of money, selling and buying commodities, let's say for production of, iron and, the growing of wheat and so forth. They know that the abundance of every commodity waxes and wanes periodically. There's a precise time when the production of a commodity peaks and then tanks. And if you schedule your purchase and sale of commodities, you make a mint. So this book by Dewey, if you can get a hand on it, please get a hand on it, no matter what it costs you. It cost me maybe like $10 back in the days. Today, it might probably sell for $400 or $500. You see, if you can get it. Meaning that, stocks, in different industries rise and fall according to the laws of time, the laws of cycle. What I'm trying to say to you is that there are people who know the cycles of commodities and stocks and things of that nature. The publishing of this book, was made possible by the Ford, Foundation. Stop and just let that digest that, for a while, right? Dewey received a grant from Ford, the Ford Foundation, to write this book. Once the book was written and tested, it was taken off circulation. If you can find a copy, and so on. But more important than that, there are books entitled, Our Biological Clocks. Every function in your body is tied to a cycle, right? We're very familiar with the monthly cycle of women, right? Okay. There's a monthly cycle of the mind. The word menses ties into mental, same root. You see that? Meaning that your mind and your soul, your psyche and your spirit, your digestive system, your respiratory system, they're all on a clock. You see that? Your ability to meditate is on a clock. There are times of the day when meditation will not go as well. There's time of the day when, studying mathematics will not go as well as other times, and so on. So there's a time for renewing yourself. What do I mean by that? We're all engaged in some project, right? Some of us are trying to make more money, trying to heal ourselves. Some of us, are working on, developing better friendships and so forth. It's all on a clock. You see that? So the clock that told the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors, black people, what time it is to renew ourselves was the pyramid of Khufu and its three sons, Menkaure, Ra, and Khafra. That triangulation of the Earth's relationship to the sun at sunrise and at sunset and at midday, you see, it's the way that our ancestors were able to know, the date and the precise time to begin the process of renewing ourselves biologically, spiritually, and psychically. You see? We look at ourselves. We look back 12 years, 20 years, 30 years, and we find that there were times that we did things right and times that we did things wrong. You see that? And what is very clear is that we had no notice as to when is the beginning of the time to change what we're doing so that we can not keep making the same mistakes. And if there's knowledge out there that will teach us how to be better, whatever we need to do, that is precious. When you go to your libraries and your bookstores and you look up, the literature on ancient Egypt, Kemet, of ancestors, black people. I got to emphasize that because, they've been trying so hard to steal that, the heritage from us, haven't they? You see them? So when you look in those books, you find pictures of magnificent buildings, pyramids and the houses, and universities. Oh, yes, they had universities. They had, libraries and so on. We find that these people, they invented literature, philosophy, geometry, algebra. The word algebra is algebra mukabala, the science of equilibrium. You see that? And the Nefer, so-called god of equilibrium, is Tehuti, which is the divine principle that gave mankind science and writing and the lake, and how to create, literary, products and things of that nature. Tehuti. Tehuti becomes Tao Te in China. The Tao Te, a great book, Tao Te Ching. And if you ask a Chinese scholar, what's the meaning of Tao? He said, I don't know. What's the meaning of the Te? I don't know. It's just Tao Te, male, female, Tehuti. You come to Mexico, Teotihuacan, the great god of the Mexican wisdom, because they too began to build pyramids. And where this understanding and the literature as to the function of the Kamitic pyramids, the Mexican, the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Incas, they don't know what is the purpose of the pyramids that they built. They just were taught and they followed suit without the proper understanding. I say, Twaniter, thank you, God, in the Kamitic language, that we know what it's all about. You see that? So, looking at the celestial clock, that's what the pyramid was, a celestial clock. When the sun rays came into the earth at sunrise or sunset, or midday or whatever, in relationship to the observer at special places, they knew it's a time to renew ourselves. You see that? Don't make a mistake. We made the mistake at one time in believing that there was something special about those 4 days and the 25th. Yeah, this is in the way, dear. Thank you. We made a mistake in believing that's much better. Made me sound like Luther Vandross now. We made a mistake in the believing that there's something special about those 4 days. You see that? Beyond it being a signal, it signaled the time to do something special. It wasn't the 4 days in itself. You see that? Something very monumental happened to call our attention. This is the time for you to do something different. And that something different was, the winter month was the time, meaning from December to March, for us to use that time to renew ourselves. And that has to be right, because you cannot renew yourself in just 4 days. That was the giveaway, that the 4 days of the solstice is not enough for us to renew ourselves. Do we need to know this? Absolutely, because people are celebrating, they changed the New Year's date, which is December 25th, according to the astrophysical calendar, to January the 1st, according to the Gregorian calendar, which is all messed up. You see that? So but lots of us are following that tradition, and on January the 1st, what are they doing? They're making resolutions to be a better person. Yeah, they're thinking that if they write something on a piece of paper and burn it or tear it up as confetti and jump up and down and watch the balls dropping down on 42nd Street, people spend like thousands of dollars to come from Timbuktu to watch a ball drop. It's a big thing, they say. They honestly believe that if they resolve to be a better person, at New Year's Day, January the 1st, which is they shifted December 25th to January the 1st as the new year. And they think that if they, write on a piece of paper the resolutions and, what else do they do with the resolution? Is it? Okay. So they think that act itself is going to change them. It's going to make a difference in their lives. But there's something you can do between December the 21st to March the 21st, those 90 days. There's something you can do that can change you for the better. But you have to have the spiritual knowledge and the psychobiological knowledge of what is it that you must be doing so that you can renew yourself. The most important thing about renewing yourself is renewing your connection with God. Because you cannot accomplish much without God. You see that? I don't care how smart you are. I'm a very smart guy, I give thanks to God for the smarts and everything, but I humble myself down to the Creator. Because when you look outside and you watch all those galaxies out there, when you look at a little insect and know that there is more computer wisdom in that insect than will ever be in a man-made computer. That DNA and those genes working together, far, humble the greatest, script writers and, computer experts. Gotta be, that humbles you. You see that? And my beloved, that there comes a time when, your wisdom fails you. You're end of your wits to find a solution for a problem. There comes a day when, you don't have the talent to accomplish certain things and know how to do it. You see? There comes a time that you need help from somebody, but that somebody cannot be found. But you see, God checks all of those boxes. See, God is omniscient, meaning all-knowing. God is omnipotent. Ain't nothing God cannot do. You see that? God is omnipresent, meaning present. The consciousness of God is present in everything, every inch of the creation. You see that? And ancient spirituality, gives us the specific knowledge, you see, of how to connect and tap into that omniscience, that omnipresence, and that omnipotence. You see, there's a way of connecting with that, of leveraging that knowledge. You see, and that is the wisdom of the ancestors. When you look at ancient Egypt and you find that, there's no civilization that taught them to do what they did. The white man is trying to say, oh, Martians came from outer space and taught, the ancient Egyptians how to do it and taught the Mayans how to do that. You see that? If the most ancient people were white people, they wouldn't be talking that nonsense that Martians came to do and teach them how to do it. You see that? Because you see, the Greeks learned from ancient Egypt, and they talk about the Greek wisdom, the Greek magical wisdom. No, they studied underneath us to learn how to do what they did. You see? So, my beloved, what we are looking at is the beginning of a 3-month cycle here where you can reconnect with God. That's the first lesson that you must learn. And we covered that for the general public, okay, last year, because we've been doing it since 1974. We've been observing the winter solstice and the renewal way back when. You see that? They're just catching on to it right now. You see that? You see? So last year, we introduced a course, renewing your oneness with God. Because you're going to need that help. You're going to need God's help because there's a limit to our intelligence, a limit to our abilities or talent. There's a limit to our ability to connect with each other, to get each other's help and to help each other. There is a divine being that created all of this. When you look out and so forth, go home and watch those shows that shows you all the galaxies and planets and things of that nature. The galaxies of galaxies. That is mind blowing. Mind blowing. You see that? Just let that marinate a little while within you. So last year we did a course in connecting, renew your connection with God, or establishing that connection for the first place, if you haven't done so. And this year, for those people who took that course, we have, a course that is, the subtitle course is Out with the Old and In with the New. You see that? Meaning that, we have a persona identification. And that persona ID, the old one is the human, and the new one is the divine ID. The divine self-image must replace the human self-image. The New Testament, the New Testament Bible, the book of Timothy, for those of you who did the Bible thing, I used to go to Sunday school when I was back in Panama as a youngster. The book of Timothy is the writer says, "Know ye," he's talking to his disciples, friends, "Know ye not that ye are gods." You see that? Talking to human beings, sitting there, no, you are gods. You need to take off the old mantle and put on the new robe. And that old robe is the human. It's there in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, okay, book, I think it's number 9, right? Not the book, but the stanza, says, and God said, let us make man in our own image and likeness. So God is not saying that you're being made a human, you're being made in the image and likeness of a divine being. But you're living your life as a human being. You see that? There comes a time in your life when you have the ability to return your self-image to its original purpose. So that course, how to, renew your relationship or establish your relationship with God is to enable you to leverage God's powers and God's wisdom to achieve your goals. How does that sound in comparison to writing on a piece of paper a resolution to be a better person? If there is a way for you to connect with God's wisdom, God's omnipotence, God's, omnipresence, how does that connect to you writing a resolution to make more money, to heal yourself, to stop doing the crazy things that you are doing? You see that? Stop going year after year saying things like, I failed at living up to my resolutions. If you have a good resolution for the new year coming and you fail, it's because you didn't have God's help. There's a helper out there. There's a helping hand out there. You see? But is your resolution the right resolution? Ask God. You can. There's help out there. The help's been around for 4,000 or 5,000 years in ancient Egypt. And we are so blessed to be able to reconnect with that ancient Kamitic wisdom. This course has lectures, it has meditations. The meditations, that's shining too bright in my eyes, sir. Thank you. The course has lectures for you to understand the spiritual philosophy of the ancestors, to understand the true nature of the seasons. The meditations, it teaches you how to meditate. Many of you try to meditate trying to still the mind. You're trying to use the will to still the mind. That's like using your will to lower your blood pressure. Can you have a thought to lower your blood pressure? Or do you have to do something that impacts the blood pressure, like maybe breathing slowly and deeply from the lower abdomen, which will cause your blood pressure to drop? Not thinking, you see that, for your blood pressure to drop. It's a bit too much. Can you just move that out of the way? Thank you. So the course teaches you how to meditate, how to control your breath. If you control your breath in the proper way, it slows down those thoughts that come into your sphere of awareness. There's no such thing as a monkey mind. The mind was programmed to pay attention to an environment where you could easily become a prey. That busyness of your mind is part of your survival mechanism that is millions of years old in the evolutionary, right? But if you slow your breathing down, any of you been in the army and you had an arm, you're given a rifle to shoot, and you're aiming that rifle, and just before you pull the trigger, you hold your breath. That's how you focus. That's how you create focus. They say if you can focus, you can be successful. If you can focus on your thoughts, what you want to accomplish, but you have to, if you doing upper chest breathing, you will never be able to focus. You always have anxiety, and you'll be emotional, and so on. So to change these things, you have to learn to change your breathing as part of your meditation, process. And you meditate, we give you a mantra. We have over 100 of them. We give you a mantra that will open up that part of your spirit, which is a portal to connecting with God's omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. You see, it's called the Oser faculty of the spirit. Your ability to be one with each other, the ability to be one with God, doesn't come from knowing that you should be able to do that. It comes from opening up a faculty. You see that? If you exercise every day properly at the right time, your blood sugar will drop. You see, your blood sugar high or low is an involuntary autonomous function. Your ability to connect with God is an autonomous involuntary function. You have all of these involuntary autonomous functions you call spiritual, psychical, and things of that nature, which you're trying to will them to manifest themselves, as opposed to you knowing the intermediary process. You see, everything has an intermediary process. That's why a triangle is the smallest complete geometrical figure. Not two, you need a third, an intermediary. Same thing, protons, electrons, neutrons. See, God is lazy. God made everything same plan, Everything follows the same plan. To let you know there's a divine purpose and will using a handful of principles to make innumerable, faceted universe. So this course will teach you how to meditate. We give you a mantra to open up the faculty, what some people incorrectly call the third eye. How many have seen, a picture of Oser? Right? You find that he on his throne, underneath his throne, is the seat of Oset. They call Isis and an eye. You see that the eye represents consciousness, the seer, you. You see that? Your connection with God. This course, will enable you to understand, you see, the connection between the things you want in life, the things you need in life. How to get the proper understanding of what to want and how to make it happen. You see that? Through the help of God. There's no greatness. There's no nothing of great value for you to accomplish something and say, I did it myself. I did it with the help of my friend. I did it with, my, PhD. That does not compare with you saying, I did it through the help of God. Why is that so important? Because what is done by yourself with your smarts and your education is not portable to others, to somebody else. But what you do with the help of God is portable to any and every human being on this planet. So you're learning something that you can make available to somebody else and to the world. Unless you have a problem with not being able to say, I did it myself. So that's part of the virtue of humility. You see that? Humble yourself in front of God. Give all praises to God. If a friend helped you, it's because of God's omnipresence. God was in you and connected you to the other person to get the help. If your education helped you to get it, it's because God connected you to his omniscience, his omniscience. You see? The first person that invented something got it from God. Because all science comes from God. The word science means to know. And God is the ultimate knower. You see that? We were endowed with the ability to learn and to know, meaning we're sharing in God's qualities, God's attributes, and so on. You have to remember that and always give credit to that. So this course teaches you, how to understand and gain and give the respect to God. You see that? Okay, God's omnipresence, meaning God is present in your mind, in your soul, and in your psyche at all times. And when you learn how to give respect to God's presence within you, you see that then you connect with that omnipresence. You see that connects you with everybody else. How many of you, raise your hand, how many of you had a situation where somebody that hardly knew you helped you out tremendously? Somebody hardly knew helped you out. Where was the connection made? It said, how did that person figure it out? Or it came to them that they should help you. You see that? I've had so many situations like that in my life. You see? People say to me, Raul Nefer, man, why are you teaching? When I was teaching in Harlem, they said, why are you teaching these courses for free? People are not going to appreciate it, they said, unless you charge them a whole lot of money. I said, well, it came to me freely. It's not mine. You see that? So this course on how to connect with God gives you all the basic, keys that you need to know to turn to connect with God, because that's the most important thing that you will ever do in your life. If you do nothing else, connect with God. For those of you who took that course, this second year, you say we have a course that has to do with you, establishing and strengthening your divine, persona, your divine ID. See, because you see, we go through life identifying with our human nature. Some spiritual authors speak about the lower self and the higher self, meaning the word self means identity. You have a lower identity and a higher identity, meaning a lower self and a higher self. The lower identity is a human. What's the human? The human is everything that's wrong with mankind. It is a human part of you that is off of all of these wars and inhuman things. When you pick up your television, when you turn it on and you find out all of these people getting killed, bombs dropping on them mercilessly, inhumanly, and World War One and World War Two, and all of this crazy, inhumane stuff, that's coming from the part of you called the human. You see, the word human, the home, you see, is earth. The human means the earthly man, the lower man, you know. The spiritual man, you see that? It's higher, the higher being. And that's what you must identify. How do you recognize the human acting within you? You feel emotional, you feel angry, you feel afraid, you're worried, you're grieving. These things are controlling your behavior. The greed, the sensuality, the emotions, the opinionatedness, and all of these things, are broadcasted from the human within you. If you identify with that, you're keeping yourself in trouble. You see that? There's a divine nature. Your real nature is a divine entity. You see that? And how do you know that divine being? Well, there was a Kamitic king called Unas, built a pyramid, and in that pyramid, he had them graft and paint a great book that had the basic wisdom of African people. It's called the Pyramid of Unas. Every single wall, every inch is emblazoned with, the scriptures. And this is thousands of years before there was a Hebrew Bible and, Buddhist canon and the Tao Te Ching. It goes all the way back to about 4,000 or 5,000 BC. The white people try to shorten that time. Don't pay attention. It's 4,000 or 5,000 BC. The teachings, that is, Unas is about 3,000 or 2,500 BC, but the teachings go back to about 4,000 or 5,000 BC. And in this book, the most important thing in this book is reference to the Patnateru, the 11 parts of the spirit, wherein is stored the laws, minimat, the laws that govern the universe, the laws that govern your spirit, your psyche, your body, your life. So once you learn these laws and you live by them, you see that you will be uplifted to a divine being. You will be happy. You will experience happiness. What is happiness? Happiness is being at peace. Well, I'm saying it the wrong way here. It's being joyful when you have the important things of life. And when you don't have those things or any one that you're missing, be at peace. Then turn around and enjoy being at peace. So you're happy, you enjoy when you have it, and you have the peace to enjoy when you don't have it, so you're always happy. You see that? There's no such thing as happiness versus unhappiness. It's happiness, period. And once you learn to be happy, guess what? You will stay happy. Because nobody ever woke up and says, you know something? Today I'm going to will myself to be unhappy. I mean, that's off the table. That's a non-starter. There's a book called The Sesh Embra, the book of knowing the transformations of Ra and overcoming evil. That book explains God's reason for creating the universe. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but the end result of the purpose of creating the universe was to create man so that God could come into its creation and experience, have the experience of being the creator as man. You see that? To enjoy life. See, until there was other creatures, until there was a world with other creatures, God had no way of experiencing life because nobody to experience it with. It was just one God. So we say there's only one God, meaning there's nothing else and no one else to experience life. So God creates the universe to populate it with man. So the men and women that rise to the divinity, become divine beings, then God can come through them and experience its experience life as the creator of this universe. So instead of going through life asking God, God, do this for me, God, do that for me, God, help me, God, do something for God. Become a divine being so God can come through you and experience his creation. That is one of the greatest teachings ever in mankind, and it is a book that was written about 2000 BC in ancient Egypt. You will never know that because, you see, they try to strip Africa, you see, of Egypt. They try to make Egypt, at the library, 42nd Street Library here, right? Egypt is in the Oriental Department. Can you believe that? Egypt is in the Oriental Department. Let that digest a little while. So this book of knowing the transformation of the Ra, what means that Ra, is really the spirit, not the sun. Take the time to learn the language, buy the Egyptian dictionary by Wallace Butch and go through it and study it, study each word and the hieroglyphs that are used and things of that nature. Okay, it's a wonderful, book of wisdom. Doesn't explain. You got to meditate on them. You got to meditate on them. Because Wallace Budge, as much as he tried, he couldn't understand it. All he could just, God bless him, to make it available to us. To understand. So in this book of knowing the transformation of Ra, the transformation of the spirit becomes the so-called gods. The deities are really the transformations of the spirit into its different functionalities. You see that? So Oser is that aspect of the spirit that is in charge of man's ability to unify with God and each other and with nature and so on. That faculty enables you to do that. So your ability to be one with nature, with each other, doesn't come from, being given a lecture on how to be one and the importance of being one. It is given to you automatically and involuntarily by the faculty of a set within you. The same way, like if you eat an apple, you don't have to will its transformation into, food and blood and bones. It happens without your will. So once you awaken the Oser faculty within you by chanting Om Oser Hum, once you chant that, I'm going to trance in with that and then make the effort to be to be one with your fellow woman and fellow man. You see that? And give respect to every person, regardless of their ethnicity and gender and so on. That faculty will unify the functions in your body that's gone awry, called cancer. That faculty will unify you with others, will teach you from within how to be one and why you should be one with. There's a faculty called Amen, from which the word got amen from. You see that? Amen is a faculty that once you awaken it, once you awaken that faculty, you will be able involuntarily and autonomously peaceful, no matter what the challenge you're going through. You're going to be peaceful, not because somebody gave you a lecture on the importance to be peaceful. It happens automatically and involuntarily. But you got to know how to turn that faculty on. You got to, you got to get this vibratory key. You see that? Then there's the faculty of Tehuti. Hung. The mantra, the Heka Hung, H-U-N-G. That's why a leftover for that is when somebody enlightens you about something, you go, And if you go on the internet and you check out articles on the vagus nerve, how many of you heard about the vagus nerve? Yeah, that's in Kemet is what I call the Jed pillar. Yeah, that stabilizes you. And just consider it's not the backbone. The backbone is just a highway of that energy. You know, the backbones, you know, those vertebrae rubbing against each other and so forth, right? As you go into the cobra pose, or you go into the different pose where you bend your back and forward and backwards. It creates what is called electricity. And that electricity invigorates the chi, the kundalini, the raw force within you. You see that? The most important exercise that you can do is stretching your backbone forwards and backwards. That's more important than lifting 500 pounds. And I'm not saying that because I'm a little guy with a bias. It will send energy to the brain. That passes electricity going to the brain, your most important faculty on your body, right? You see that? So, you know, the prefrontal lobe, the Kenti within you. You know, the ancient name of of Oser, the supreme being, was Kenti, way back in Somalia in prehistoric times. You see that? So all of these things will be taught to you. People say, they ask me, you know, they say, Brother Ra, where you get all this stuff from? Which books did you read? I didn't get it from reading books. Everything that you need in your life is stored within you, in your spirit. The spirit is the archive of everything that you need to do, and it's the master source of regulation. It's the master source of peace, the master source of intuition. You see that? You see, a beaver is guided from within on how to build the dam, right? The bee is guided from within intuitively to build the hive and set up its governmental system. The queen bee as the mother goddess, and so on. And the same way that all of these things in nature, you know, have, you know, that intuitive process, you were also provided with the intuitive process to avoid and solve all of your problems. The thing is like the genes in your body, what you call the angels and the archangels and the gods, are turned off. You have genes that are, like, let's take, for example, vitamin C. Vitamin C is not a vitamin in other animals. In man, it is a hormone, right, that we cannot manufacture. You see that? Because the gene to produce it is, we have the genes to make vitamin C, but it's turned off. You see that? In other creatures, it's turned on. They're born with the vitamin C, but with this hormone C gene in an on position. So the same thing, your ability to know all things is in an off position. You got to turn it on. How? Oh, sharing. That's the key. You repeat it over and over. Go into the alpha state with it, into the theta state with it, where it begins to chant itself. And you will turn that faculty on to intuit not any and everything that you want, but what you need to know. Are you with me? This is, you know, wisdom granted to us by two ancestral, you know, traditions. One in Kemet. Okay, it's not Kemet. Okay, it's Kemet. When you say Kemet, you rob yourself of a great heritage. Okay? Because Kam means black. And the man wants you to say Kemet to avoid you saying Kemet. Khamau means the black man. Oh, it's the name that the Kamitic people gave for themselves as men, as people. Oh, AU. Kam O. The hieroglyph for Kham is, you know, a piece of crocodile skin, which is black. The blackness of the crocodile skin, the scale. You see that? It's called Ham. And that Ham is the same Ham of the Bible, son of Noah. Ham. You see that? If you go to a good, Hebrew dictionary, you'll find it's not Ham, it's Ham. It's not a he, it's a ket, right? It's not a H in the Hebrew alphabet, it's a KH. Ham. So there's a guttural sound in there. And that's taken from the Kham Egyptian. So the Kamitic people in Egypt and ancient Ethiopia and Somalia and Uganda and so forth, gave us this tradition we call Kamitic, and it's a sister brother tradition to the Shramanic culture in India, in the in that valley tradition that was exterminated. Those people were exterminated when the invaders came from the north. You see that, okay? And they were the inventors of Hatha Yoga. They were the inventors, of the spiritual tradition. You see, not the Vedanta. Vedanta is what the invaders brought with them. You see that, okay? But the tradition, okay, that survived from antiquity, you see, is Brahmanic. The Brahmans, translated as the seers, and that seership goes back once more again to the eye of Oser, the eye of Heru, okay, the eye of Sekert, and so on. I don't know how to put those symbols together. That's where the teachings is all hidden. So these two ancient traditions, you see, and it has a not too distant connection to the Taoism tradition of ancient China, you see. And I'm not going to go into it. I give all respect to the Chinese people and what they've done with the teachings, but you cannot ignore the fact that they start their dynasty with the third dynasty. So my question is, why do they ignore the first two dynasties? That's a different story altogether. Blessed Chinese people, thank you very much for what you did with it, and so on. So that's the course for those of you who did the connecting with God last winter solstice period. For those of you level 2, it's going to label to level 2. It's establishing, your divine self-image. You see that, and that's going to be, a second stage level of the work we do at the winter solstice. You see that. Next year, it might be becoming a magician. I don't know. We will. If you get a chance to listen to the testimonials that people who did the this course here, the establishing your connection with God. If you hear the testimony, you get a chance to listen to it. Where's it going to be posted? On YouTube? In the Union with God Level 1 course. Is that on YouTube? Okay. If you get a chance to listen to the people, you'll find that from the last year's course, people were able to, sister that didn't have a job, was just in her apartment, and in a few months she was able to get a job, buy a house, and it really improved people's lives tremendously. A family, was able to quit smoking in less than a month, the first month, not even trying to stop. It just happened automatically and autonomously. You see that? So you don't know where this course will take you, because you see, your spirit knows what you need more than you know. You see, if I had been successful in achieving my personal goals as a young man, I would be a great concert pianist and composer. What a waste of gray matter. Instead, I'm a humble, musician writing just a few melodies here and there and teaching people how to realize their divinity. I'm not a celebrity. Don't want to be a celebrity. And if I look like a celebrity, I apologize for that. So that's course for those of you who, are for the first time, take that course, your oneness with God. And those who took that course this year and this week, we will have available, establishing your divine self-image. You look like a divine being when you're peaceful in the midst of a challenge. You look like a divine being, you see, when you're able to be peacefully and joyfully at one with everyone, no matter how different you are on the outside. You see, lots of us cannot do that because we've had bad experiences with people, with bad actors out there, and we don't know how to be one with such people. That's why we put the first course, your oneness with God, because God will show you how to be one with the worst person on earth. You see that without you violating yourself and your values, there is a higher wisdom on how to do that. You see, you look like God. You look like a divine being. You see, when you're able to solve all the problems that are needed, I don't say that you want all the problems that are needed to be solved. You look like God when you are able to craft your destiny, a destiny for yourself that will further the divine plan. The divine plan is what? The divine plan is to eventually bring forth a man, a woman into this earth. This is that from birth is a divine being. You know, this what we're living right now is a transient, period for mankind, meaning a kind of man. When we say mankind, we mean a kind of man, not the full man yet. It's a human, or meaning a humus earth man. Then there is a homo spiritualis. That is where we are going to become a homo spiritualis. And you see, the man and the woman that has become a divine being is given the title as an Oser. The Oser is the Kamitic equivalent of what the Christ is in the Christian tradition. They took it from us. You see that thing about Oser or Lazarus or Osiris brought back to life. Reading between the lines, the teachings are there. So the whole thing here is that many of the men and women in ancient Egypt that realized their divinity were allowed on their templar, their I'm sorry, the stella, looking for that special word, the stella, they were able to say that, they were able to append the name Oser to their name. So if one of you were living back then, you would say, Oser John, is buried here. And then now, if you had enough money, your entire, spiritual achievement would be there, saying that you did not manifest anger in your life. You did not manifest fear in your life. You made no one suffer. You took care of the weak and those people who needed and things of that nature. Look at that, right? The requirements to become a divine being, the requirements to hold office in Kemet required you to be above anger, fear, worry, grief, frustration, greed, you know. In today's world, in today's world, what do you have to be to become the leader? You can violate all of those things and still be a leader in this Western world, in this world today. Not only Western, but all over the world. My beloved, we need men and women that when they walk down the streets, people see Kamitic coming. When they walk down the street, they see a goddess coming, a god woman coming. They see a god man coming. Okay? When you help others, people will send people to help you. And for you to help, you'll find yourself in that situation. I didn't want to do this. I was minding my own business on the train one day. And this young lady picked up, sheet music, and I was looking at it to see what song it was because I'm a musician. She thought I was looking at her. Maybe I was. Very beautiful Haitian woman. She smiled at me. I smiled back at her. And I said, "You're a singer?" She said, "Yes." She said, "Well, I'm a pianist." She said, "Really? Maybe you can help me with this song." So we got to talk and talk and talk and so forth. And she said, "You know something? You sound like you can help me with because the song it was a spiritual song." And she says, "Are you familiar with the Book of the Dead?" I said, "Oh, here we go again." I said, "Somewhat." And she said, "What do they mean?" I read this part says about the light. What does it mean by the light? What does this light look like? So I did my best to explain to her. She was impressed. But I found myself saying things that like I'm out of my body listening to these things being said. You see that? And so I began to teach her, student of one. She had a man, and so forth, and taught her some things and so on. And other people found out that I knew things, and they wanted me to teach them tarot and astrology and meditation. You know, I taught them what little bit I knew, and every time I found myself out of body, looking at myself, saying these words, learning along with them. I said, this is cool. This is really cool. you know, until they said, well, so we rented a music studio. I was a musician, so we rented Harlequin musician. I don't know if there's still is there still there Harlequin on Broadway and anyhow 47th Street, whatever. But anyhow, we had classes inside. We rented the music studio for an hour and had classes inside there and so on. And then more people began to come. I said, the last guy that tried to do this, they nailed it to the cross. I don't think I want to do this. And as hard as I tried to run away from it, wasn't working. So many of you will find yourself in that position. People will be sent for you to help them, for you to teach them, for you to heal them. And you're gonna have that outer body experience, seeing yourself teaching and learning from your persona teaching. Because what you can see is just the vehicle of who you are, which is, according to the Kamitic records, not even your mother knows your name. Peace and blessings to all of you.
Yes, yes. Let's give it up for Nefer. Amen. Live in Brooklyn. Yes, yes. Yes, let's stand up. We give thanks. We give thanks. So Shechem, we pried you away from your comfortable home. Can we have a few more minutes of your time for some questions and answers? All right, great. And we have some people online. Again, I want to give thanks to our supporters online. We have about 500 people in the webinar room. Very last minute notice. And we have YouTube and Instagram is popping. So two quick things that came up, Shechem. In the winter seasons meditations of last year, the other aspect dealt with the Swadhisthana chakra purification. Will that also be part of level 2, or is there any other chakra involved this year in level 2?
Well, this level 2, well, whoever did level 1, they still have access to the course, so they can do it there. And whoever buy the course this year will have that information there. Okay, so this year I'm going to be focused on Ma'at. You see that? Ma'at, people don't understand that Ma'at is just not simply order. When all your psychical and mental faculties are functioning in an orderly manner, there will be health and there will be wealth. You see that? The planetary correspondence to Ma'at is Jupiter, what the Chinese call the Grand Duke. If you understand a little feng shui and so forth, you will understand that the Grand Duke, you see that Jupiter is called the Fortuna Major, the major fortune, meaning that you see the Ma'at, when you are orderly and harmonious socially, mentally, psychically, you will experience great health and great wealth. So one of the targets of the second, level of the winter solstice is for you to awaken that faculty that governs your wealth and your health. You see that? In other words, we are breaking this up because you couldn't do all the things that you need to do to recapture your divinity in 9 months. I mean, in 90 days. And the best time to do that is the winter months. So you do that, and then you spend the rest of the year with the second course that I put together, Empower Your Manifestations, which is available now also on our site. Yes, sir. So how to use these faculties, but the Empower Your Manifestations is adding what we call the powers of the psyche or your soul. We have the powers of your spirit, which are the 11 laws, the power of your soul or your psyche of what people call the virtues. You see that? When you're humble, when you're kind, when you're loving, caring, and so forth, these are portals to powers in your soul. You see, when you establish these virtues and eliminate the opposite from your life, you will be able to acquire a great deal of power. Being virtuous is just not simply, doing something for social niceties and, and moral, values and so forth. The word virtue comes from vir, meaning virility, strength, power. So the virtues are keys to powers in the soul. You see that? And the evidence for this was given by Chinese medicine. If you study Chinese medicine, you find that all the virtues are connected to one of the 12 meridians. And the meridians are connected, you are the conduits of your life force connection to your organs, and your mind and your brain and so on. So, when we speak about virtues, we are really speaking, you see that, of a psychosomatic reality, not just simply a philosophical, moral principle. We are awakening a power within you. You see that? And Western science has already shown that people who are kind, for example, have a lot higher secretion of serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, which are powerful neurotransmitters. You see that you need to be highly functioning in order for you to become successful at will. Not involuntarily successful at will. Let that marinate in your spirit for a while.
And the other question, there's others coming, but the other question about those of us who have just come to this knowledge, and it is now December 23rd, so tomorrow is the last day of the official winter solstice, feeling that they may be behind or, not able to participate or fully, benefit from what you're teaching.
No, the winter solstice is not the time when the work of spiritual renewal and empowerment is taking place. The winter solstice is just simply the announcement that the period which runs from December 21st to March 21st. That period has begun. Okay, so a lot of people last year that were not able to start until like March the 10th. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause the truth is that people hear about it and they said, I want it. If I just going to get a piece of it, I want it. And that some people got quite a lot in the last 10 days that they worked on it. You see that? Because you see, once you renew your relationship with God, the winter solstice is the best. But I gotta stop saying the winter solstice, the winter months. The winter solstice is the announcement of the beginning of the winter. You see that? Okay? The benefits cannot be accomplished in 4 days or 1 day of effort. It requires 3 months of effort, of working, do your meditations over and over and over again. You got to awaken dormant powers within you. You have to embed certain thoughts through affirmations into your psyche, into your mind, and so forth. It's a process of cultivation, and it takes time. So you're not missing anything.
Yeah, those of us that took the participated last year can testify. There's no way you can do that work in 4 days. This is, if you haven't had this type of meditation experience, this is not just sit still and relax. This is a very rigorous process with assignments of contemplation and journaling that you have to do to prepare yourself to be able to do the meditations. And I believe there's some 26 tracks or modules in that course. But the blessing is a lot of those are guided meditations. So the instructions, you're not left on your own to deal with. You're taking your steps through as a group. We have all of those recordings. And as we continue this year, the library of that will grow. So yes, online you can order the Union with God is the official title now. Much of that material is the same, but it's going to be growing as last year. It is called Union with God. If you took the Solstice under a different name last year, right, and some of you ordered the Union with God again, don't worry, we're going to refund you or transfer that credit. We'll transfer that credit over to the level 2 as soon as the level 2 is available. Yes. Okay, so sister here is asking about the calendar. So the calendar that we have here, and there's multiple calendars for different purposes. The calendar that we have here, it relates but doesn't directly relate to the solstice. It has to do with the lunar cycles and the knowledge that every lunar cycle, your soul or your psyche is going through a generative period. And it's very interesting that a woman, the human female, right, cycle of regeneration, of menstruation, parallels the lunar cycle. So something within us, whether we're male or female, is renewing itself every 29 days or so. So there's a knowledge, and some of that comes down to the understanding it takes 21 days to establish a habit, right? 21 days to establish a new habit, 21 days to deconstruct the old habit. So a lot of times when we try to make a decision to change something and we think about it in an indiscriminate way, in an arbitrary way, in a non-scientific, non-intentional way, we don't get consistent results. So that calendar has to do with the knowledge that every month you have an opportunity to make a major change. You can change your mind, right? But you need to know the cycle. So you start just before the new moon, you continue for 21 days, The last 7 days, you evaluate and prepare for the next cycle. So that's the month-to-month spiritual work that we do. And the principal time is the 7 days, the sacred 7, right? The full moon itself, 3 days before, 3 days after. So that's it's a complementary but slightly different, because now we're talking about the solar cycle, the cycle of the year. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have 13 months of the year. So it's a lunar calendar. Ethiopian calendar is a lunar calendar because we have 13 months, 13 lunations. Okay, not 12. Okay, so the Ethiopian calendar, you have to peg it to the Kamitic. Okay? All right.
Someone asked in one of our Facebook pages, could you touch on the 12 strands of DNA that relate to the 12 that you mentioned?
No, I didn't say 12 strands. I never said that.
No.
12, okay, so what's the question again?
Did you speak about the 12 strands of DNA? Is there any relation with that? You mentioned the 12 meridians.
12 meridians and the virtues, not the DNA. In other words, you see, when you go in Chinese medicine, right? Every meridian, corresponds to, somatic, functions as well as emotions. For example, the liver meridian connects to the element of they call it the wood. Emotion is anger. Okay. The virtue is kindness. The color is green. So, in Chinese medicine, everything is controlled by 12 meridians. It's a basic 12 meridian plus 2 other central meridians, the Genmo and the governing vessel. So the whole thing is that this provides the evidence that virtues are psychosomatic, functions. You see that? And Western medicine today have done a lot of neural studies to verify that people who manifest certain virtues are able to manufacture greater amounts of neurotransmitters that are very powerful for mental healing and physical well-being. You see that? Okay. As well as repairing brain damage and things of that nature. And I should say the opposite is true. If you're not kind, meaning you're unkind, treat other people, incorrectly, it damages your well-being, and that's proven medically. Yeah.
We have a question about someone who taught the 11 laws course, and they're asking if that can be done while doing the winter solstice work, or just how that
It can all be done if you have the time and the energy, because it's all connected. You see that? But and it depends also, on your ability. You may not want to take on more than you can handle. You see that? But you shouldn't have any negative repercussions from that. You see that? But just let me add one caveat. You shouldn't spend too much time each day meditating. An hour is good enough. If what you want to do is going to have you meditating for more than an hour, unless you are, very, well trained in meditation and in good health, that might be too much for you to do. Well, when you meditate, you're lowering, your rate of breathing. which affects, the cardiovascular system, right? I mean, I cannot say concretely and specifically because we're all different. But the thing is that you don't want to overtax yourself unless you're in a habit, of doing certain things. Don't do it all at once because it's there. You see that? Um, you're gonna get the benefits you're looking for renew your oneness with God. You see, for people who are, let's say, for the first year, I would say your oneness with God. That's the winter, season meditation, spiritual work, and empowering your manifestations. People who did the winter work last year, they should do the level 2, which is establish your divine self-image, along with empower your manifestation.
Do we have any questions here? Yes. Let's do this so people can hear you. Yeah, that's fine.
I know this might be a bit off topic, but I was just wondering if you could speak to Bazi and the year of what next year is, and if that has anything to do with anything that was discussed tonight, or just maybe just like some generalities behind the sign that governs next year.
The young man asked a question about Bazi and the coming year.
Well, for those of you who do not know, Bazi is a form of Chinese so-called astrology. It's really about the cycles, of the fluctuations of the life force. You see, because there are no real stars involved in Bazi, except for some Bazi practitioners not borrowing from feng shui, to expand, their repertoire of analysis and so on. But this year is the year of the dragon, and it has lived up to its draconian name. When we look at the things, worldwide that has been done, and things in this country as well. Very draconian stuff. When you look at Chinese cycles, you have to understand that the influence of a year can carry over to many, many years, or even 100 years, especially when we are dealing with extreme events. So the events of this year, are very extreme and will carry over, years to come. You see that. Next year, starting in February, we move into the year of the snake, which is, it has a good side and a dark side. So when you have a dragon year that has, manifested its dark side, look for a dark, serpent. You see that? And but it can also empower, okay, people who do the work and things of that nature. You see that? The serpent is a yang fire, Bing, and the cure for it is in the yin fire din, the horse, the ding. So all I can say to you is that, but that's working on the level of the psyche. So when you're expecting, negative things in the world, a lot of draconian things and unkind things and so forth, then work with the Meteru, the spiritual forces, and Ma'at. You see that? Ma'at is the one to quell the worst things that you can do. And if you establish your divinity and strengthen your oneness with God, then you will rise above any and whatever they throw at you. So learn it, master it, and pass it on to others. You see that?
Can we get one more? Anybody here? Yes, sir.
Do the 12 meridians have anything to do with the 12 zodiac signs and the 12 cranial nerves?
Question about the 12 meridians, the 12 zodiac signs, and 12 cranial nerves.
The zodiac signs comes from the temple of Dendera in Egypt, and they connect to the spirit. Okay, and if you get into the numerology of it, the so-called numerology of it, you find that it connects also to the tree of life and the partner Teru. You see that the meridians in Chinese medicine connect to the psyche because they work through virtues. You know, as did the Greek, religion. Was one based on virtues as opposed to spiritual laws and so on. They connect to the 10 labors of Hercules or Heru, borrowings that they didn't quite understand and do the right way. But anyhow, so don't try to put them together because you see one deals with the soul, that's the virtues, that's the Chinese Taoist tradition, and the Kamitic deals with the spiritual laws, the upper part of your being. You see that? The virtues will give you more immediate effect, results, you see, and the spiritual laws will give you deeper and longer lasting results. So work with it. Sure.
You said earlier that people could be born that goes for a person to be born as a divine being when they come out of the womb. Do you think that there are people that have come, for instance, people like in the ghetto, for lack of a better term, but have been derailed because of society? And is this the work to get them back on track, or will they already have to come out and be like, let's say, a Christ figure, so to speak? Is that what the person that's transformed it like?
Well, you have to be inside somebody to know where they are, where they're going, and so forth, right? But the thing is that the birth of divine men and women has already been taking place since ancient Egyptian times. You see that? And here and there it's happening, okay? And these young people are hiding their light. You see that? They, as children, they look like any other children doing crazy things and being childlike and so on. Otherwise, they would be in danger. You see that? Because anything that is going to fix the world order is a threat to certain people. But, as the years progress, you see more and more people are turning towards these ancient teachings. You see that? And there's going to be change taking place. You see that? There's no rumbling and talking about the Democrats talking about we need youth people now to come in and take over the DNC. We need young people, and so forth. When we find that they find that Gen Z is drinking less than their parents, and so on, and the people in this country and in the world who don't have a respect for science and things of that nature, they're older people. So let the young ones come, but we have to protect them. We have to offer a cover for them. Okay? Question? You have a question, sir? No, I thought you had a question. Okay, all right.
My question is usually like I speak to people about the role of emotion plays, and I try to from my learning upbringing, I was taught that emotions don't play they play a certain role. So I just wanted to know.
I just wanted to ask about the role that emotions play in spirituality, basically.
In the ancient Kamitic tradition, the only two legitimate emotions for man is peace and the enjoyment of peace, which is happiness. You see, anger. If you indulge anger, it hurts your health, drops your IQ, damages your heart, your liver. If you indulge fear, it damages your health, lowers your IQ. Any emotion that you indulge, even if your joy is not tempered, you will find that your joy will derail your IQ. You see that? So you have to, learn to rise above the human part of being. You see? In other words, if anger damages you, what do you need it for? You don't need anger to be able to do the right thing, to take action. You see? In some martial arts training, for example, you'll find that in the martial art training, what they teach first and foremost is emotional control. You see, they call it wuji. They say the state of wuji. Enter and maintain the state of wuji, therefore, your opponent cannot take you out of your fight game by making you angry or upset, talking trash to you as they do on the basketball court. Okay?
All right. Once again, let us give our appreciation to Ra Nefer Amen, Shekem Shekem, Somerset Society, and the founder of Kamitic Legacy. And let's greet him in the ancient Kamitic words of peace and power. Necharak, Shekem Shekem. Thank you so much. Please be seated. Just want to make a quick announcement before we close. And we want to give thanks to everybody online. Yes, lots of praise and appreciation and fire in the chat. Come on, y'all. Let me see it. Yes. So we're also here in Nicholas of Brooklyn. This is the beginning of the year. So this is the time for planning. And we have the Kamitic Meditation Journal. New edition for the 2025, I should say, year. So appreciate those people who came out to get their journal and the calendar. We have bundles available. And if you're not here, you can visit the link that I'm going to put in the chat to take a look at the calendar. It's a compilation of many of the practices that we have enjoyed over the years. Including the observance of the lunar cycles, a space for you to record your journaling, the feedback that you get for your meditations, a place for you to record your meditation scripts as you learn how to do that, and a tracker for you to keep yourself accountable. So we appreciate you patronizing us. If you're in the New York area and you want to pick it up in person, this is the location at Nicholas, Brooklyn, where you'll be able to get it throughout the week. So again, thank you all very much for coming out, and have a peaceful solstice season. And let's make 2025 our best year ever. Dwaniter. Peace and blessings.